What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams, and today I am joined by just one of my normal co-hosts today. We've got my guy, Kyle Henning, here. How we doing tonight, Kyle?
Doing pretty good. Been a weird couple of days after the win. Ready to talk about the Raiders, ready to talk about the Packers, and ready to get going.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Arrowhead Tom cannot be with us tonight. He got a little bit of a fender bender today. He's all good, apparently, but it's just, a little bit stressful time for him. So he will be taking the weekend off. Yeah. We miss him dearly, but the show will go on here as we recap the Raiders game that happened last Sunday, a game that I happened to attend. Spur of the moment thing. I decided, you know what? Let's take the 2-hour drive out to Vegas and go see the Chiefs play the Raiders in at Arrowhead West, as I affectionately called it for most of my time there.
We gotta walk everybody through this a little bit, because you messaged our group message with myself and Tom and our guys from Kingdom Recon as well, with Randy and Josh, and the response immediately was Garrett decided to message the group and say, I don't know, should I go to this game? And everybody immediately went yes, because it's the first time the tickets aren't $600 a piece.
Exactly.
To sit at the top of the giant room of doom. So how was it, man? Is it look like a spaceship inside too?
It's a pretty interesting stadium. It's a pretty nice stadium, I will say that. They got a lot of concession stands, I'll say that much, and they got basically every type of food option you could ever want at a stadium.
Does that make the lines pretty quick? Are they using like the
that's the whole theory of it, because the lines are all very short because there's so many stands. So and it's all no cash. It's all like touch card pay and stuff, so it makes things go a lot faster. Pretty nice stadium, I will say that. It is a nice stadium. The room, it certainly looks crazy from the outside. Yeah, it's good place to watch. We had seats kind of behind the end zone a little bit, almost like an all-22 view, or a end zone view, I should say. Nice. Very nice angle, and it's not too far of a stadium, so you're kind of on top of it more than you're outside of it.
It's more vertical than it is.
It's pretty vertical. Yeah, it is a vertical stadium, so it's a cool stadium. It is. They got a lot of they do a lot of artists and stuff at halftime and stuff like that, and pre-show.
It is Vegas.
Yeah, so they have like a whole where like the Al Davis torches. They have a whole stage in front of it, like with a whole live band that they bring up people on, and cool environment. It's definitely a cool environment, I'll say that much. And they have a grass field, which is cool. They have one of those fields that retracts and goes outside and gets some sunlight. So it's
they can just pick it up, put it in the desert, and then bring it back.
Yeah, and then they have a turf field that they use for UNLV, I guess. So it's pretty nice stadium. Definitely. Cool. Yeah, I can understand why it was so expensive the first couple years when it first opened. That is, the ticket prices were ridiculous. But yeah, I looked and I was like, yep, ticket prices aren't insane for a nice nosebleed seat. And so I took my dad and we went out, and
I was gonna say, and you turned it into some father-son bonding time, right?
Yeah, second time me and my dad went to a game. We went to the week 1 game last year and in Arizona. So that was, I'm currently 3 for 3 for games attended and the Chiefs winning. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, it was a good time. We got out there. The parking situation around the stadium was really nice. All the infrastructure around it worked out well. It was very easy to get in and out. So very enjoyable time.
Know how to do that kind of crap, because they're very familiar with having.
They are very good at that. So that is a big plus side of it being in Vegas. And it's not too far of a drive from me. It's only like 2.25.
How far is it from the Strip?
It's a little bit on like south of the Strip, I think. It's not directly on the Strip, but it's
I
knew
it wasn't right on it, but I wasn't sure how far.
I mean, it's right next to the Mandalay Bay, which is where we parked at, and the Luxor is right. So those are like the south ends of the Strip.
I have visited the Luxor while in Vegas. It's a nice place.
Yeah, the Luxor is cool. There's a lot of cool things in Vegas, and stadium is definitely one of them. So it was cool to see, and it was especially cool because the Chiefs got a big fat dub. And
enjoyed a Halloween weekend at the Luxor in Vegas, and that is all I will say about that. So we will move on from there.
That sounds like a good time.
It's I mean, Vegas is a fun place, but naturally the rules of Vegas are what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Just stay there. Yeah. A
But
lot goes on in Vegas.
so with all that said, and with you sharing a little bit of your Vegas experience that is shareable,
yeah,
got in pretty easy, got out pretty easy as far as around the stadium. The experience was nice.
It was very nice. It's
How'd the first
easy.
quarter go? First quarter and a half.
First quarter, yeah, it certainly was a rough start for the Chiefs. Let's just say that. Obviously, the Raiders go down the field, instantly score on a drive. The Chiefs go 3-and-out on a pretty abysmal drive, and people started panicking. People started panicking, thinking this might be the same Chiefs game that we've seen the past couple weeks from them. A very disappointing game, to say the least.
Timeline was in shambles.
And the Raiders ended up scoring again. They actually missed a field goal, a 30-yard field goal on their second drive, which really set the tone for, okay, this game might be a little bit different. But yeah, they got up 14-0 early on us. The vibes in the stadium were high. And I didn't lose faith. It was one of those times you're watching the Chiefs and you're just like, I feel like we're going to get this done. It's the Raiders. You're going against a rookie quarterback and not a great defense. Feels like you should kind of be able to get it together and figure some stuff out,
Yeah. It felt very much like a game we were used to watching the last few years, that everybody was a lot more comfortable with the last few years than they were this year. The last 2-3 seasons prior, 14-0 was when everybody used to say, oh, this team's finally going to wake up and play football today. Look, they're down. Now they're going to play. Now when they're down 14, everybody goes, oh, my God, this guy's... Okay, guys.
Panic mode. Yeah. I was actually telling my dad the whole time, because we played the Raiders last year and we were down 17-0 to them at one point. And then Travis Kelce scored 4 touchdowns and we ended up beating them by a lot. And so that was always in my mind. I was like, this is the Raiders we're talking about. There's no way we're going to come out here and stink it up versus the Raiders.
So in the first 3 drives to the Raiders, they gave up. Well, I think it's 3 drives. Yeah, they gave up first 3 drives to the Raiders. They gave up 81 yards to Josh Jacobs. And they gave up, what did we come up with? 70 yards? Pretty close to 50 yards to Davante Adams.
Yeah, it's like 60, I think.
Yeah,
something like that.
What did he end the game with? I can tell you, because that's what he ended the first half with.
Right, it was like 70.
Just a second. Davante Adams ended the first half with 5 for 73, because he ended the game with 5 for 73. He had 2 targets in the second half, which we'll get into. But what I was getting at with the first 3 drives is they gave up, again, I think 60 of Davante's 73 yards in that first 3 drives. They gave up 81 of Josh Jacobs' 110 yards, and 63 of that on one play.
Mm-hmm.
Then they did the thing that they used to do, that we're used to seeing, and they went Golden State and went 31-3. They proceeded to answer the touchdown drive with a touchdown. The second touchdown drive. They answered the 14-0 drive with a touchdown. They then then they immediately forced a 5-play punt. Then they scored again.
Woke up.
They left them 25 seconds. The Raiders did not move the ball. The Chiefs got the ball to start the third quarter. It was 21-14, and they never looked back. They punted once.
Pretty good to go 21 points unanswered there after going up 14-0,
After the Raiders' first 3 drives, which included a missed field goal, they went punt, end of half, punt, field goal, punt, turnover on downs, turnover on downs.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Obviously, a big bounce back from the defense after, letting up a little bit early. The Raiders got some. They had a good opening script, if you will, and definitely took advantage of some big shots. They were really sending it. Honestly, though, it was kind of capped by a couple big plays, because we talked about the run. The rushing of Josh Jacobs, and he had that one big 63-yard touchdown. But other than that, he really wasn't that efficient
Outside of the 1 carry for 63 yards, he had 19 carries for 47 yards. As I mentioned, 81 of those came in the first 3 drives. They held him to 2.4 yards a carry after other than the
Chiefs
63-yard bomb.
Especially the run defense, really started to wake up. And obviously, we talk about the run defense. We're missing one of the best, linebackers for run defense and Nick Bolton, and we're still, trying to pick up the remnants of him, or pick up what he was doing.
And they've been trying to give that home run ball up on the ground for like 4 weeks now, and we've talked about it.
It's been coming,
Justin Reed almost did when he whiffed the tackle in that gap, and Brian Cook bailed him out like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Right,
another linebacker or corner whiffed on one and did the same thing, almost gave up another big run, and somebody saved it. Like, it's almost happened 3 or 4 times. It just finally happened this time.
So it's gonna, that'll happen sometimes. And obviously they didn't let it get to them. They bounced back and really put their foot in the ground and started playing some solid defense. The run defense was good. The pass defense from the corners at least was pretty decent. Not as much action as you might want to see from the D line. George Karlaftis had a phenomenal day though. I mean,
he got his sack.
Yep, he got a sack. He was definitely getting some consistent pressure.
Most of Aiden O'Connell's damage was early.
Yeah.
He ended up 23 of 33 for 248 and 1 touchdown, but most of that was the first 3 drives. Like I told you guys, they didn't move the ball. The drives that I mentioned after those first 3, there were 5 plays for 13 yards, 2 plays for 11 yards, 3 plays for 6 yards, 8 plays for 60 yards and a field goal, 8 plays for 31 yards and a punt, 4 plays, 7 yards on downs, 5 plays, 9 yards on downs. They did nothing. And
they
most
definitely
of the
collapsed
stuff
on
that Aiden O'Connell hit was on blitzes. They were blitzing a lot early, and he was just getting the ball out quick. And then
to his credit, he was definitely getting it out quick, and
he made an insane throw. One of the better throws you'll ever. That throw to was it Mayer that he threw that ball to?
Jacoby Myers.
Maybe well, it was either Michael Mayer or Jacoby Myers. They had the same
Mayer,
last name almost.
Yeah.
But either one, whichever one, I think it was Mayer. You were right though. I think it was Jacoby, because that ball was perfect. Like Trent was in. Yeah, it was Myers, because Trent was in perfect coverage, and it just boom. And one of the other plays that they got a lot of their yards on was a penalty on Legarius, because that's what we get sometimes with Legarius. He knows that. We know that. That's fine. It's fine. He's a physical corner. I'd rather that.
Yeah.
You know what they didn't call later? When Devontae wanted it? Stuff that wasn't a penalty. And I'm very happy about.
Yeah.
So it was a very well played game by the secondary. Again, they got a couple of throws in. That's what happens in the NFL. Even the backups are, in fact, good at this sport most of the time.
Yeah, and Aiden O'Connell, I mean, he was like, we gotta give him some flowers. I mean,
better than Jimmy Garoppolo, I can tell you that.
Yeah, definitely better than that. I think, offensively, the Raiders kind of collapsed a little bit as far as their game plan, but Aiden O'Connell played well through the.
He'll learn. He'll get better.
They tried to get a little cute. I remember they had a little fake end around to Jacoby Myers that they tried to throw a ball to, and it didn't work, and then the Chiefs ended up doing their own version.
I believe that was Chris Jones said, "No, I've seen that movie before, kids. That ain't happening."
Yeah. Well, it's actually they had tried it earlier on in the game, which people don't really realize. Like one of the first runs of the game, Jacoby Myers got a handoff, and he looks to throw it,
and then
ends up just tucking it and running it. And it's like you're not gonna get over that twice. That's
if you're not throwing that the first time, trying to run that back.
That was your only opportunity. Yeah. So. Definitely big credit to the defense, though, stepping up and looking a lot more like the defense we've been used to seeing this season. Only defense in the league, by the way, to hold all their opponents to less than 25 or less points, which is pretty insane if you think about it.
Especially considering most of the scoring, a lot of the scoring that's been done by other teams this year hasn't been when the defense has been on the field.
Exactly. So
we've given up some points on offense this year when they haven't even been on the field.
Yeah. So, obviously, kudos to the defense. They've been the highlight of the entire year so far, and it continued to impress
Trent
the Raiders
and Legarius, guys. We had the conversation a few weeks ago where I was like, "Oh, I'm out on a limb, being early, saying that they're both top 5 corners, and as a duo, they're the best duo in the league." I'm not out on a limb anymore, and I'm not early. They're
pretty safe to say. Yeah.
By the way, Trent, another insane blitz from the slot where. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing O'Connell got rid of it, because he would have got smoked. But when he got rid of it, he got smoked anyway because Trent jumped to block the pass and then put his hip into his head, essentially.
Yeah. O'Connell at the end of the game, he got smoked a couple times. He was during the halftime and during the commercial breaks, and he was feeling it. You could see him visibly in some pain at the end of that game. Yeah, he took a beating for sure.
And George, like I said, George's sack, he got him for 13 yards.
Yeah. Which is funny, sacking his old college teammate there.
And then I thought the ref was like worried about George was like messing with him. Like, they know they're friends. They know each other. They're just talking. He's just relax, dude. Don't put your flag in your pocket.
Put it down.
Nobody's here to see you.
Yeah, luckily that ref crew was a pretty solid crew. They really didn't call anything too egregious.
It wasn't. I wasn't spending half of the game looking at my television trying to figure out what exactly they were doing. I'm not talking one direction. I'm talking both ways. Like,
now, they got our tackles a couple times on some cheesy stuff.
They're going to continue to pick on him, and I'm going to continue to hear people ask why he's not playing as well as he should be, and that's why.
Yeah,
they have been on him since. When you have to think about how your play starts every single snap, instead of just doing what you've done a bajillion fucking times your whole life. Sorry for my language, but I'm tired of this conversation. When you've done something for years and years and years and years, and it's never been a problem, and then all of a sudden it's an issue, and now it's going to mess up. You're going to take more holding penalties because now you're slower to react off the ball than you were, and you were not moving, your feet aren't where they're used to being, and you're not used to this, and everything's off. You change. Jesus, Mitch Schwartz talked about this a couple of years ago when we had some of these same conversations about other players. If you change, I believe it was when we were talking about switching people from the left to the right and the right to the left, and how that's not, a thing for everybody.
Because conversation we had,
it's hard to do. When you change even just a little bit of something that's a routine and not something they're supposed to have to think about, that affects the whole chain. And that's the first part of every play is the snap. And now they've got him thinking about every snap.
It's pretty tough. I mean, especially at a position like offensive lineman, like you're literally like a tackle, you're literally like you start a play, you're running backwards. Like you are forced to run backwards at like a set height, like distance arc.
And it's got to drive him nuts to watch, like against the Eagles on Monday night.
Yeah.
To watch Lane Johnson do the same thing. Play
they definitely have targeted
after
the Chiefs.
Play after play.
Chiefs specifically
or
for
Jordan
that
Mailata, or even with the Raiders, you had Raiders tackles doing it, and it's not called. And I look, man, you guys can bang on the dude because you don't like the money they spend or whatever, all you want. But when you have that done to you, the opening night of the season, and they've never let the bone go. They've never put the bone. We talked about this in week 1. If they don't put this bone down, it's going to bug him all year. It's going to haunt him all year. And it's going to be Collinsworth is doing all year. And it still is, to this day, Chris Collinsworth is doing. And I will hang that on his head.
They're definitely specifically targeting the Chiefs tackles. And
most specifically, Juwan Taylor. Like, Donovan's getting calls, but that's mostly Donovan's just not that good.
Donovan's just not that good, unfortunately.
He is still better than Orlando Brown by 0.4% and about half the price. So
we do have a great backup left tackle that saw some action, though, that has the promising future.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Morris.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You got to see it in person and from a pretty good angle.
Mm-hmm.
I was impressed with the broadcast view. I have not had the time to go. Actually, this week has been a nightmare. From a personal perspective, there's been stuff everywhere. So I haven't had a chance to look at the 22 this week like I typically do. What did he look like to you from kind of getting a 22 look at him from being in the stadium?
Yeah, he looked pretty good. I mean, I also rewatched the game and watched the all 22 already, and he didn't get a ton of snaps, but the snaps he did get,
getting all 22 now. We like that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I was just like, you know what, let's do it. Let's look at some plays.
I told you, man, it's fun to watch from that angle because it lets you see so much. I wish they would just let us. It
is a good angle. It's honestly a very good angle. But yeah, Wanya, he had a limited size. I think he only had like 4 or 5 snaps, something like that. They were some good snaps though, and there is, from the way that he's been talked about, especially from the offseason and training camp, and especially with the role that he's been tasked with, he's like actually the swing tackle, and they are very comfortable just putting him right in at left tackle, and making a very seamless transition. We've seen him a couple times this year already doing it, and that's going to end up being a very, very big investment, I think, for the Chiefs. That's going to be a huge acquisition that they got in the third round. He did the third rounder, right? Yeah. So that's going to be. He's definitely. I don't know about this year about unseating Donovan Smith, but he's definitely putting his name into the hat very strongly for the starting job next year, which is huge for the Chiefs, having a cheaper deal than having to pay Donovan Smith. And also probably getting a little bit better product. So,
so 2 notes. One, I didn't realize this when I just looked at Wanye's page. He played at Tennessee and Oklahoma.
Oh, he played at Tennessee?
He played at Tennessee in 19 and 20, and correct me if I'm wrong.
19 and 20, that was when Trey got drafted.
I think that was Trey's draft year, was it not?
He got drafted in 2020.
Right. And then he played at Oklahoma in 21-22, which would have been the year after Creed was gone, right? Because Creed and Trey got drafted same year. I believe that was the 2020 draft, wasn't it?
I can't remember now. Is it 2021 draft?
I'll just pull up Creed real quick.
Well, we could have pulled Trey.
This will be faster.
Yeah, we're.
He was drafted 21 draft, so he played.
But he was there since 2017, so
he would have played with both of them.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah.
At different colleges before he got to Kansas City, and now they're both in the same.
Oh yeah, literally on Trey's Wikipedia it says Smith was moved to left guard as true freshman Wanye Morris took over at left tackle. Okay, yeah.
So not only did they play together, they played right next to each other. Now remember, Trey had all that medical crap that I think sophomore year was when all that stuff started.
Yeah, that's why he got cleared, and then
he
got moved.
He would have been with him and would have been going like there would be a bond there. Now, mind you, then they leave, then Wanye goes to Oklahoma in 21, and that was the year after Creed. That's the year after they got drafted. So Trey and Creed got drafted, and then Wanye transferred to Oklahoma. But that group at least has some familiarity with one another, knows one another, because Creed was back in the building at OU a bunch. Immediately after he was drafted. He's a big OU dude. He's very vocal about it. So there's a relationship there. And you know what? Yeah. If Donovan Smith continues to struggle openly, they may.
I mean, they may. Yeah, they really may.
Because
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
He is violent, and it is fun. There are, I think Baldy did the little clips on him. I saw 2 or 3 clips of the Wanye's of later on of the breakdown.
I want to say it was maybe Nick Jacobs might have put out.
Nick Jacobs did one
snaps as well.
Okay, because he on one of the run plays he just out the clubs a guy. Yeah. And then on one of the pass plays he just beats his hands and destroys the he's got technique. He's gonna make some mistakes. He's 23 and he's never played in the league full-time snaps before. But he's not 39 and making mistakes he has played, or 35 and making mistakes and he has played in the league a bunch or whatever it is. What is Donovan Smith? 31. We do this every time with Donovan. I thought he was older than he was. Donovan's not as old as we thought he was.
Yeah. Nick Jacobs did have all of Wanye's snaps.
Yeah, Donovan's 30. 30 going to be 31 this year. That's it.
Yeah, I will say Wanye definitely looks a lot more explosive. Like that's the first thing that jumps off when you look at his snaps. He
gets off the ball quicker.
Yeah, kind of reminds me a little bit of Trey Smith, honestly. So yeah, good development there that hopefully we might end up seeing a little bit more of. Transitioning over to the offense, because we basically talked about the defense, right? We got everything covered in the defense. They did good. They did very good.
I mean, they're like I said, that you're secondary at this point.
Yeah.
They have some decisions to make this offseason that are going to be tough.
Yeah, no kidding.
They have some choices. For all the crap and everything that people give Brett Veach, I would not want his job this offseason at all. This is going to be
I got faith though. I got faith.
I have faith. I have all the faith in him, but I personally would not want this job because if you go through that defense and look at who needs contracts, whew, boy.
Yeah. Gonna have to make some tough decisions. He's done that before though, so We will see. But moving on to the offense, obviously, that's kind of more of the talking point from the Raiders game, mostly because we actually saw for the first time in 3 games, second half points. Pretty crazy. Chiefs scored in the second half. Isn't that crazy?
They scored routinely in the second half.
Yeah. Honestly, it wasn't even when heading into halftime, I wasn't even really worried about that just because how routine the first 2 scores looked.
They had more points. They had more points after half than before half.
Yeah, they went. I mean,
17.
They were moving very cleanly. The offense was throughout the whole game. But honestly, Pacheco had 2 touchdowns, absolutely running the ball over them all day long. It was really good to see.
They
he had a really
stole
good day.
A touchdown from Rasheed and gave it to Isaiah because Rasheed scored on that ball they ruled down at the half-yard line or whatever. He was in.
Was that Rasheed, or I thought that was Pacheco? I thought it was Pacheco.
Maybe it was Isaiah. Whoever it was, they stole a passing touchdown.
Yeah,
they stole a passing touchdown from Patrick.
Because Harlan was like, "Well, he gets one anyways." On the broadcast,
they stole a passing touchdown from Patrick. Because that was a throw to Pacheco on that.
Exactly. So a passing touchdown.
He was in, but Andy was not about. And everybody's like, "Why don't you use the challenge?" Because guys, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but the NFL officials are really bad, and you need as many challenges as you can get.
And it was one of the things very easy to just punch in for half a yard. It's actually funny. The Raiders had a situation earlier on in the game where it was a 3rd and 1. They challenged it and lost the challenge. And then guess what? They just ran a run play and got the yard anyway. So it's like, you guys kind of just wasted that,
They spent a challenge and a timeout on half a yard.
Yeah.
Because they moved the ball 6 inches. They got the 6 inches, but they also got like 2 yards on the 6 inches. So they wouldn't have needed any. Yeah.
So Andy decided to just punch it in with
like
Pacheco.
I said, you don't want to you have to make sure you have as many challenges as you can just in case, because we've seen this mess. So
so that was the first touchdown. Justin Watson had the second touchdown on a pretty hilarious play. Big hats off to Justin Watson. Leveled by
there's contact allowed at 5 yards. They're not allowed to behead guys at 5 yards.
Yeah, that's definitely not allowed.
I mean, and also, I didn't know that he got not. I think it was in the group chat with you where I said I didn't know he got hit that hard because he was up so fast. I didn't know if he actually hit the ground or just got knocked off balance. I couldn't figure out why he went and got immediately in Spillane's face. When they showed the replay and he got put on his head and then he stood up and got the ball, I was like, no, okay, I get it.
Stood up and there was just nobody around him. It's like, all right, just toss it in there. But
I also get why he immediately went and said something to Spillane. Now,
that was good to see.
15 yards for words is a bit dumb, NFL.
It is pretty dumb. Yeah.
If you just scored and you're holding the ball and you immediately get in a dude's face, they're always going to flag you for it. So
and literally it only actually cost the Chiefs 2 yards because the penalty got enforced on the kickoff and Harrison Butker just booted one to the 2-yard line and got returned to the 27. And it's 2 yards more than what a touchback would have been. So
and
big whoop.
I think Andy even said after the game, I don't love it, but I also understand it. And I'm here for it with that one. Like, so I get it. Like, it was basically like.
Andy just doesn't like penalties in
those
general.
Penalties. I hate penalties, but that one I get. That's one of those. No, that's fair.
Yeah, and we talked about it already this season, especially on the defensive side, where like L'Jarius Sneed's been doing it a lot. Where it's like, hey, take some penalties if you're gonna set the tone for the game. You know, like
Spags has said, like y'all are gonna have to live with the flags with LJ because he's That's what he like. That's what physical.
He does. Yeah, like that's why he's so successful because he's like I said, a physical guy. So. It's good to see some fire coming out of Jay Watt, and rightfully so. He's definitely taking some shots this year, at least
from
the Chief Kingdom.
On the field. He's taking some shots on social media. He's taking some shots all kinds of places. So
good to see him in there. And then after halftime, just came out firing once again. So incredibly easy, just like just normal Chiefs football. Just like we're used to.
Look, the throw. Okay, so. Mahomes looked like Patrick normally looks for the first time this year, probably, other than maybe a couple of instances. Like, he looked dialed in again. Mm-hmm. And I mean all game, not like even on the first couple of drives, wasn't him where I was like, what are we doing? Why?
Yeah.
It was like, guys, not okay. Come on. Come on. Figure it out. So he looked normal. He looked comfortable. They looked comfortable after they got the little bit of what do we do here out of their system at the beginning. And I don't even know that it was necessarily
once they got
what do
past
we
the
do
first
here.
15, really.
It was more, they didn't help themselves any, again, with self-inflicted wounds. Because I believe there was like a minus 11-yard play on first down to Pacheco.
Yeah, literally the first play of the
drive.
game, Mahomes just dumps it down to Pacheco. If it's a check down, he loses 11 yards. It's like, well, 2nd and 21. Let's do this thing.
And then incomplete to Kels, and then 11 yards to Sky Moore on a check down, and then a punt.
Yeah.
So
and then the next drive didn't end up working out too much better, I don't believe.
11 yards to Pacheco, and then it was 1 yard, incomplete, and the incomplete was close.
Yeah. So.
And then, touchdown drive, and then touchdown drive, and then touchdown drive. Oh, look, that's 3 in a row. Punt, touchdown. Punt, field goal, ball game.
Yeah, so they turned it on, Obviously, they started figuring it out. Travis Kelce had a good game. Getting him integrated, obviously, is always a huge.
The throw to Travis, what did that look like from your seat?
The one over his head, the
ball
over,
that goes
over the
through
defender's
like 4
head.
people's heads, including Divine's.
Yeah, the one over Divine
Diablo's helmet on the way.
That one was actually one of the sickest throws I've ever seen, like in person, because it the angle literally was right at me, like the ball from Pat.
I hope
it made a line. Yeah, and just seeing the ball in a perfect tight little spiral, just like it was so crazy just to see it drop right over his head.
When you let it go, when he let it go, did you go, no way? Yes.
I didn't realize who he was throwing it to, because I mean, like it was like a face-on view, so you don't see like exactly how much like of an arc it is, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it keeps on going up, and it just, you see Kelce running up near the sideline and just drops right in a bucket. It's like, oh my god, that was sick.
And you had basically the reverse angle of staring in, like you had the safety's look point of looking into Patrick's eyes, but from an elevated view. That's
exactly like it was pretty cool. And honestly,
that's why you hear guys on the sideline when we listen to these mic'd ups, when you hear defenses talk about Patrick and some of the stuff he does, like I think it was the Bengals, wasn't it, a couple years ago on the sideline, where they're like, you're not supposed to do that, like that's insane.
That has been a theme of a lot of people that face Patrick Mahomes, and it is different when you see it in person. You really don't get the full effect of how crazy some of the stuff he does until you see it in person. You're like, oh my gosh.
And that throw doesn't register on most radars.
Yeah.
That just is another one on his highlight list. And I don't even know how long it is at this point.
And that's like a throw that
Seth's gonna have
so
like
hard to make. I mean,
of like 10 million plays by the time this kid's career's over. Like it's insane.
Yeah. And funnily enough, though, that's actually wasn't even my favorite throw of his on the day. My favorite one happened later. I think it might have been the fourth quarter, the back shoulder to Rashee Rice. Remember that one?
Down the sideline?
I'll tell you. Yeah, that was one of the crazier throws. I've never seen a back shoulder throw like that in my life, where Rashee Rice is just running full sprint on the left sideline, and Patrick throws it, and it's like, that's behind him. Like, what is he doing? That throw is going to be so far behind him. And then Rashee just turns around and just picks it out of the air. So, like, that was, in my opinion, the sickest throw of the game from what I saw.
And it's a trust throw. And he knew.
Literally just from seeing, like, the angle, it's like, that throw is going to be behind him. Oh, wait, that was a fucking perfectly placed back shoulder. Oh, my God, that was sick. Like, that's just the little things like that are so impressive to watch from Patrick Mahomes.
Those two throws are, I trust A, my arm, and B, my guy to not make this a problem. Because
no kidding.
When we talk about windows to throw into, and we talk about it from like high school, they're like this, and from college they're like this, and into the NFL they're like this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was like this on both of those throws. There's no room. That ball has to be in one spot and one spot only. And it was.
It was.
And
it was beautiful.
We've seen some times this year where that hasn't been the case.
Yeah, I feel like you don't see, Pat really isn't a back shoulder, like 50-50 ball type thrower, but you're starting to see that a little more, especially with Rashee Rice,
Okay, you say he's not. Go back through this roster, and other than Travis,
well, that is the thing.
Over the last several years, who's he throwing back shoulder fades to?
That's true. That is true. There ain't really no one I would trust to even do
MVS
that.
last year, and everybody lost their minds because MVS can't jump. He can run, but he can't jump.
Yeah.
No
yeah,
hops.
it's basically only Kelsey that he does that with, because he's the only one I would ever trust to do something like that.
Tyreek would, because he trusted Tyreek to just jump, but he also
Tyreek
didn't really
would
have
just
to throw
jump
too
over
many
guys.
of those because
Yeah,
you don't
that
have
was
the
an
back
underrated
shoulder
part of his
balls.
game.
You don't back shoulder throws to Tyreek because he's 4 yards past the dude you're throwing the ball to traditionally.
Right. Yeah.
So,
you got deeper goals in mind than a little back shoulder.
But
so yeah.
I mean, the offense. Look, we talked about getting a more of a team rhythm, getting more of a rhythm and they got in more of a rhythm. Rasheed had 8 catches on 10 targets. The one was a drop, or he'd have 9 catches. One was a drop.
Yeah.
He dropped it. The other one, that was Pat. That ball was low, away, wrong spot. He barely got a hand on it.
Yeah, that one I wouldn't even really consider the drop. The first one definitely was. He was just started going too early.
Yeah, and I think it was the second one actually, because the first one was down by his ankles. The second one was when he was trying to run. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds about right. Either way, definitely I would only count one. Which
the reason I'm okay with that one drop, is that's and Seth I think tweeted it. Somebody else said it. I had also tweeted it out. Kaiser, by the way, tweeted this exact quote. I believe was that's a look how many yards I'm gonna get after I catch this drop. We've talked about it. He wants to run before he's got it. And I thought it was very interesting listening to, I think it was Dan Orlovsky, and it may have been Chase Daniels. So there was a bunch of breakdown on Rasheed, and basically it was, if he stops his feet is when he drops the ball. If he keeps moving, he's not really dropping things. If you hit him in stride, if you hit him while he's getting across, he's a yak guy. He's constantly thinking about where I'm going to turn my feet to. How am I going to run?
Yeah, so and we saw that.
If he's moving with the football, he's been much more reliable catching it than he is on the hook route.
And we saw that obviously on his touchdown play where that was another really sick play that is cool to see. Yeah, the crosser where you can it's really cool to see the end zone, or like the behind the view angle where you can just see that side of the field just open up, and you're like I pointed to him. I was like, boom, right there. And then he throws it to him. And
to MVS or to Rasheed? Because
to
MVS
Rasheed. No, to Rasheed.
Oh my God, open.
I didn't even see MVS up at the top, honestly.
Neither did Patrick.
I didn't even see him. I feel like there was a safety that was kind of high that was at least in that area.
Was 30 yards back off
and he started drifting to the middle though.
There's a clip. I did get to see the 22 of this clip because it's on social media. But if you watch off the line of scrimmage, the MVS takes 2 steps and his hand's in the air because the guy that was guarding him is gone. And MVS is like, yup,
Who was guarding him, by the way?
Nobody. The answer to that question is no one was guarding MVS. I have looked back at that play. I don't know who blew the assignment, but somebody.
I wonder if it was a certain former chief.
I think he was already benched by that point because this was in the second half.
Okay,
that was the second half. Rasheed's touchdown came in the second half, didn't it?
I think, yeah.
Pretty sure
it was the third or fourth touchdown.
We haven't mentioned it yet, but we will, because I was going to end the offensive talk and the Raiders talk with that exact statement, as a matter of fact. So we'll get there in a second. Don't spoil it. We're getting there. But whoever was supposed to be guarding MVS didn't, and MVS was open. But the problem for MVS was Patrick's eyes never left Rasheed all the way across the field.
Oh, I see what happened. So I'm watching the play over. Justin Watson's on the outside of him, and the guy who's covering him, number 21, moves with him with the motion. But then when the ball snapped, Nate Haas, 39, because Watson runs a crosser, he also goes with Watson. Yeah. So literally both of them go with Watson.
Either Robertson or Hobbs, somebody blew the coverage.
But also MVS. Because of that is also the reason why Rasheed Rice was kind of open, because all he had was a linebacker on him.
Yep.
And that was just going to be wide open regardless.
And so Patrick never looks off of Rasheed, never sees MVS. So then
I was very surprised though.
Rasheed, and MVS throws a huge block at the end.
Well, I was very surprised. Like Rasheed even stayed in bounds. I saw him catch it, and then you see him running towards the sideline, and then I look away for a second. I feel like, and then it's like, oh, he's still in bounds. I thought he would have I thought he would have got tackled out of bounds by the guy right next to him, and he just runs around the guy. Yeah, and then MVS is out there. Yeah, and then MVS is out there delivering the perfect block to secure him. It's like, oh my gosh.
That was one of those. The guy that went to go tackle him was like, I got this angle. I don't got this angle no more. How did that happen?
Yeah, he literally just ran around him.
Where did he go?
just hit that
He's
second
not
gear.
supposed to be that fast, and he was flying.
All the guy got was a piece of his hair. Actually, I think is what he got.
He got back piece of his jersey a little bit, and he just ran through it because
shrugged right through it. Yeah, that was a really impressive play. Really impressive game overall from Rashee Rice. Obviously, first 100-yard game of his career and for any Chiefs wide receiver this season.
Since last season in like week 7 or something.
yeah, we haven't seen that from a wide receiver in a while. So
in a regular
it was good
season
to
game,
see.
because I think
and obviously we talked about the offense, and we talked about it last week. The offense having a little bit more limited role of guys who can kind of maybe concentrate the ball to a little bit more. And
Sky Moore had 3 catches for 34 yards on 3 targets. So no drops, 11-yard average, 18-yard long. Played pretty well most of the game, and he ended Marcus Peters' tenure with the Raiders.
He did, yeah. He single-handedly, after that
I don't know
one
about
play,
single-handedly, but it definitely was the nail.
It was mostly Marcus's doing, but he was the nail in the coffin. You know, he was the final piece of the puzzle. That
we talked about Marcus and stuff before the game, and I said what I said then. And then he went out on the field and proved me 100% right.
Tough, you know, that is tough. Marcus woke up that day and decided, you know what, I'm playing my own game, and I got to respect it. I got to respect tackle.
Eddie flat out.
If you're gonna go out, you got to go out on your own terms. You know, like Vontae Davis retiring at halftime. You know, like if you're gonna go out,
basically did, because he went after.
Do it on your own terms. You know,
there's video of him on the sideline getting after it with Antonio Pierce and back and forth.
Is there a video from this game?
Supposedly there was video of it. I haven't seen it yet, but there's supposed to be video of it. I think Vic Taffer, one of the Raiders beat writers or whatever, had some of it.
That's pretty good. Man.
It's just
I still love Marcus.
I'm all great with Marcus when he was here for the most part. There were things that he was never going to do here that they were never going to allow here.
I don't know. I still firmly hold the belief if you would have gotten him with Steve Spagnuolo, Steve would have figured him out. He would have routed him down. He would have made him the dog of that defense, and he would have been the Darius
all the time, man. Situations matter.
Yeah,
and Bob Sutton was a bad situation for Marcus Peters. Although we've seen now, you can talk about situations, but he's been to Harbaugh and that defense, and he was with the Ravens, and they had a legendary DC at the time, and then he went to Vegas.
He's with the Rams. He was with the Rams,
and they have a guru and all that stuff. Sean
I don't know. I think Steve would have been. I think Spagnuolo would have been. I think Spags would have done better.
Man.
But
some guys just are tough, man. They're just not. And also,
shout out to Marcus Peters. If this is the end of his career, shout out. You know, had a good run.
Good for Sky Moore on breaking his ankles for those 11 yards on that punt that we got.
So I mean, we had Sky Moore had to get a couple good tosses. Justin Watson obviously had a couple. Well, that's the biggest thing, actually. That's something very interesting I saw on Twitter. Rashee Rice and Sky kind of switched positions. Like, Sky was in the slot. Rashee Rice was on the outside. And turns out both of them thrive in those positions. You know, I think actually Rashee Rice has a very drastic change in performance when he's in the slot versus when he's on the outside. He does a lot better on the outside.
Well, I think
and Sky Moore is a lot better in the spot. So
I think we talked about why with Rashee, though, when we talked about him stopping his feet, because a lot of the time in those slot routes, they're not necessarily always running consistent
full go routes. You kind of run and then you're finding that soft spot.
Or you're stopping or you're hitching or that's not necessarily
that makes sense. And that's all about figuring out your receivers, you know? That's kind of the biggest thing. You're still figuring out Rashee's strengths. You're still figuring out all the receiver strengths.
They also threw the ball to Isaiah Pacheco 5 times.
Yeah.
And they threw the ball to Noah Gray 3 times. 2 other things we've been asking them to do for a while.
Yeah.
And they did it. Look, this team is fine if they do what they know how to do and they do it well. We've talked about play calling. We've talked about some of the personnel things. I know we've harped on the coaching and how I do think it's more coaching than it is personnel right now.
Yeah.
And I think this was a good example of, hey, put them in spots that they can succeed and they'll probably do it. And this is something that's weird.
It definitely helps when you're putting them in the right spot and actually using them to their strengths instead of
they've done
stuff they're not good at, like Sky Moore running a go route versus Sauce Gardner, you know, it's just one of those things. So I think that'll continue to be a trend in the offense. Hopefully open Rashee Rice up at least a little bit more.
I hope him.
And yeah,
Also, I hope McCole recovers. He had surgery. It sounded like from his Twitter on his
best
thumb. Hope
recovery
that goes
to
well.
Nicole, and hopefully Kadarius Toney will
Yeah.
be good to go for this
Andy
next
said he
game.
couldn't. The reason they didn't play him is they didn't think he could take a hit, which that's not
very
great.
interesting. I don't know what that means.
That's tough.
When you have
I mean, dude,
it's like, how can you not take a hit? You know,
because all those hits are like car accidents, and that's what people don't.
that's true, but it's like, how do we?
Did you
How
see
do
the
we get
video of
past
Christian
that?
McCaffrey of like
Well, yeah,
him walking around in his closet with his wife's like
yeah,
videotaping, and
with
he
all the
looks like he's been through
bruises,
war.
bloodies.
He's like, yeah, that cut's been there since week 3 of training camp. He's
I
bruised.
think
Like,
that's a pretty common theme with a lot of guys.
But that's maybe why he couldn't take a hit. Like, that's why it's not like taking a hit from like me running into him. It's like, oh, he got hit by a car going 40. That's why he couldn't take that hit.
Yeah, it just seems very drastic because he was a limited participant or a full participant in practice the whole week, and then all of a sudden he can't take a hit. Like, what happened?
That was strange.
And how quick of a recovery is that? So hopefully he'll be back soon. But also, like I said, we're really waiting for the playoffs anyways, just to really unleash Toney. But it would be nice to get him going these last couple of weeks, especially versus the Packers coming up here.
Yes.
Sunday, prime time in Lambeau. Frigid conditions are forecast, potentially some snow. Patrick Mahomes' first time in Lambeau, taking on the Jordan Love-led Packers once again.
Yep.
Should be an interesting game. I don't know. The confidence level in the Chiefs, I'd say, going into this game is pretty high for me. I don't know how you feel about it, but I haven't seen a ton of the Packers games this year. From what I have seen, not the most impressive team. I know Packers fans really hate their defensive coordinator and their defense in general. Jordan Love, I've heard, is
they're mostly okay with the personnel. There's a few guys they're not super thrilled with, but mostly just the coordinator. I have several Packer friends, and I end up with a lot of Packer things on my timeline for that reason. Their defense, and also my group chat is filled with them screaming about their defensive coordinator quite often. So I know for a fact they're not big fans of the DC.
I know their defense just has not been performing super well so far this year.
They've gone through spurts where like they've been meh this year all the way around. They're just so this is Green Bay so far, guys. They're 5-6. They've beat Chicago. They beat New Orleans. They beat Detroit. They beat the Chargers. They beat the Rams. Now, they beat the Rams with Brett Rypien and Royce Freeman at tailback and Brett Rypien at quarterback. But they also lost to Detroit. They lost to Vegas. They lost to Denver. They lost to the Vikings. They lost to the Steelers. They're coming off a big win against Detroit on Thanksgiving, but that's a division opponent. We know how division games go. We've played a few.
It's Detroit. And it's
bit
Detroit.
Wonky, and it's Detroit. Detroit's been up and down this year.
They beat us, but come on, it's Detroit. We gotta always preface that.
Well, they also beat us without Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. So
yeah, true.
So look, are they great? No. Are they a team that if we don't play well could beat us? Yes.
Maybe.
Because
probably.
this team shoots itself in the foot and anybody can beat us.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We've seen it. So do I expect them to go out and struggle mightily? Not necessarily. Do I think that the defense may enjoy themselves again with some Jordan Love? Potentially.
Yeah.
They really haven't added a ton of weapons for him.
No, I mean, Christian Watson's okay. He's okay.
He's only getting a couple of catches a game. Now they're big catches, they're big plays, but he's only getting 1 or 2, maybe 3 a game a lot of the time. He's not been incredible for them on a game-to-game basis. They've been using a lot more in the receiving game. Like, for example, Christian Watson's third on the team in yards. He's got 21 catches for 351 yards.
Who's above him?
Jaden Reed has 36 catches for 497, and Romeo Doubs has 41 catches for 433.
What the heck is a Jaden Reed?
He's a wide receiver. He's been there for.
He's a wide receiver. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he got drafted out of Michigan State this year, so he's a rookie.
Oh, okay, that's why I don't know who he is.
Yeah, second-round pick out of Michigan State, I believe, this
He's
year.
a second-round pick. Jeez Louise. Okay, cool. Romeo Dobbs is good too. I mean, he's had some moments, but ultimately,
again, there's nothing in there that you're like, who are we covering? Like,
no, definitely
there's
no
no
worry.
Devontae
Really.
Adams.
Yeah, I mean, they don't got any kind of
They
significant
traded
number
him to the
one
guys we beat
receiver.
last year.
Yeah.
And then they met that, which made us get rid of Tyreek. Remember that whole?
As far as a wide receiver matchup, this will be the easiest probably that the defensive backs have faced all year. Yeah.
It'll be the one easiest for a while this year so far. Luke Musgrave is their tight end. He's got more catches and 10 less yards than Watson. But like I said, Christian Watson's got a 16.7 yard average, but he's only got 21 catches. So like,
yeah, so it's. I know also their run game. I think Aaron Jones is going to be out.
And he's been underperforming this year. They're averaging like 3.5 yards between their running backs on the ground.
Yeah, their running game has been pretty poor. AJ Dillon, I think, has taken a pretty big step back from a couple years ago.
131 carries for 448 yards for a 3.4 average.
Yeah, so not great.
And if I'm not mistaken, they're banged up on the offensive line, and they will be because they lost one guy for the year. They lost Bakhtiari and Tenuta. They're both on the IR.
Yeah.
Oh, and I guess Musgrave's out too?
Oh, okay. Well, that's tough.
Darnell Savage is on the injured reserve.
He
was a full participant.
Safe to say
he was a full participant, but he's designated to return, so he might be back.
Oh, okay.
AJ Dillon questionable. Aaron Jones questionable. Both. Aaron Jones stretched, didn't practice. AJ Dillon was limited, also in practice on Thursday.
Oh.
Jaden Reed remained sidelined at practice Thursday.
Oh. Okay.
And Jair was limited. Jair Alexander, their best corner, was
right. He's pretty good. Yeah.
Limited for the second day in a row with a shoulder.
Dang.
And Dontavian Wicks is another wide receiver, backup wide receiver. He was limited on Thursday as well. But yeah, great. Not great. And yeah,
Luke Musgrave. There's some injuries that we're getting.
Luke Musgrave was on the IR on November 27th, so he won't be available for this game.
Oh.
So that conversation I just had about him in the
don't gotta worry about it. He's gone.
Being the fourth best option for them at the tight end position, you're going to get probably Tucker Kraft because I think he's taken the job from Joseph DeGuara. But
dang, yeah. So safe to say we might not have a lot to worry about from the Packers standpoint.
Know who Tucker Kraft is because he's a 5th-round pick out of San Diego State this year.
I actually did know him.
Not San Diego, South Dakota State. I apologize.
I did remember that, I think, from some of the mock drafts that we did this year.
For the rest of us who forgot who that was, I'll bite the bullet. I didn't remember he was from South Dakota State this year.
Yeah. South Dakota or North Dakota?
South Dakota State. Okay. SDSU.
Yeah.
The Jackrabbits.
I might have been from North Dakota. No, South Dakota is the Bisons, isn't it? Buffaloes? Or is that North Dakota? I think the Bisons are South Dakota.
Yeah, but South Dakota State is the Jackrabbits, I'm pretty sure.
That's all that South Dakota is. I mean, I don't think there's South Dakota and South Dakota State.
There is. South Dakota State Jackrabbits. I'm looking at them right now, baby.
South Dakota State?
Yes, sir.
What is North Dakota State?
I don't know that there is a North Dakota State.
Oh, North Dakota State is the Buffaloes. Sorry. That's where, or the Bisons. That's where Carson Wentz went. How could you not know?
Okay. I just always called them North Dakota. I didn't know they put state at the end of it. I thought it was NDU.
Yeah. That's what I was saying about South Dakota, too.
No. SD, South Dakota. I believe there's South Dakota University and South Dakota.
Well, there's probably a North Dakota University, but they don't have I doubt they have a.
Yeah, South Dakota Coyotes. The South Dakota Coyotes football
team. Oh, they are Division I, too. I mean, hey, shout South Dakota Coyotes. Any famous alumni from there?
Bob Nelson and Joe Glenn are the head coaches.
I don't know those people. I'm looking for alumni.
So that gives you the break there. The Packers offense is, I mean, they're not terrifying, frankly. They can beat you, but I don't think they're going to have a great time against this defense. I know there's some Packers beat writers out there that seem to think that this Chiefs team doesn't have a lot of talent in the secondary. I don't know where that came from, but as we talked about earlier, I don't know if that was pre-show or during the show, but Chiefs Kingdom, you guys have 2 top 5 corners in this league right now, and they're playing together, and they're the best duo in the league right now, in my opinion, and I don't really think it's all that close. What they've done to wide receiving rooms and especially star wide receivers all year, and what they've done to quarterbacks from the defensive back position all year, is just it's crazy to watch this group grow together, and especially these 2 studs that we've got now with L'Jarius and Trent, both fully in feeling comfortable in their roles, both fully confident in their play. Nothing about that wide receiver room scares me, and it scares me even less with the injuries to it, because as I read you, number 1 and number 5 on the year in receptions are on the injury report this week and either not practicing or limited. Number 4 is on IR, and number 6 and 7 were both limited also, because that's AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones in the receiving room.
Yeah, so safe to say, as long as the Chiefs can kind of show up and do their job.
Play the run and make him throw the ball on you. Make them beat you.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of this Packers offense against this defense. I'm not.
No, definitely not.
Even
a little bit.
I wasn't a couple years ago when we had Jordan Love the first time when Rodgers was out and whatnot. I still wasn't scared of it against the Rodgers, and that was when our defense wasn't even great. I'm definitely not scared of it now.
Yeah, and also to note, Nick Bolton is back at practice. He was limited at practice today. Still TBD if he'll be good to go for the game. But if he were to go for the game, that'd be big. That'd be a big boost.
I think they're just kind of I think he's ready. I think they're just warming him up and increasing him gradually as they go. I don't think they're too worried about
rushing him back, especially in a game like this.
They're getting plenty of play out of what they've got out there right now with Willie Gay and Drew and
and with their
Leo
Packers
and
rushing attack might not be up to par. So we don't
Jack
really.
Cochran
If he's not 100% good to go, we don't need him to go. But Jerick McKinnon also limited at practice today. Hopefully we can get him back. The Chiefs also signed Keontae Ingram to their practice squad, formerly of the Cardinals. Yeah. So that's a juicy little pickup. Maybe potentially I don't know. They already have Michael Pirine and Deneric Prince. So just a little bit extra running back reinforcements just in case, I suppose. Now you have more of a Jerick McKinnon type running back anyways, more of a pass catching guy in Keontae Ingram. So I could see why you might want to replace a role like that or have a backup for it just in case. So yeah, other than that, really the Chiefs offense going into this Packers game, the corner, Jair Alexander, of course, he's good.
Yeah. He's he's not been up as much this year as he's been as good as he has been in the past. I will say that. But he's also been hurt most of this year. Pretty consistently. Their defense, they've got some names.
Clark,
they've got names, and they've got they've got some decent
Devontae
players.
Wyatt was the first round pick.
Simone Biles' husband is on their team, if I'm not mistaken, because I believe he's their free safety. Jonathan Owens, right? That's her husband.
Is it?
Pretty sure it is.
There is a safety named Jonathan Owens.
I'm pretty sure that's her husband, because I'm pretty sure.
Okay, shout out.
I'm pretty sure she tweeted.
Zane Anderson is a backup safety for him. Wow.
Yeah, old friend alert, right?
Old friend. Yeah, Zane Anderson. Wow, that's crazy. They got Rashawn Gary, he's a decent pass rusher.
Yep. Jonathan Owens is married to Simone Biles.
Preston Smith on the other side of Rashawn Gary. So they got some
Wyatt,
decent pass
solid
rushers.
up the middle. Not a
Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker.
Now, Devondre's got a questionable designation according to the depth chart I'm looking at. So does Rashawn Gary and Rudy Ford and
they got Lucas Van Ness, their first round pick.
Yes, they do have Lucan. They have Lucas also.
So they got some guys there, but
again, I
don't know how.
I'm not
fearful
as concerned.
I am.
Their defense would be better if their coordinator was.
That seems to be the biggest hindrance on them. Yeah, that seems to be the problem.
And I'll be honest, that was a problem last year, and everybody knew it, and the Packers knew it, and the Packers fans knew it, and Matt LaFleur stuck with him. So I know that's why a lot of Packers fans haven't been super happy with Matt LaFleur on that aspect of things. But yeah, man, if they look, we need to run the ball because they're not very good against the run. I would like to see a Pacheco fed like he was last game against the Raiders some. I would also not hate. Hey, everybody banged on it. We didn't even talk about it in the Raiders game, but Clyde had a pretty good game for that game with the Raiders.
Yeah, he wasn't a negative impact, which is good.
He made two very. As a matter of fact, he set Isaiah Pacheco up for his first touchdown run.
Yeah, so he did.
He got him a 6-yard or 5 or 6 yard run to the 1 yard line, and then everybody lost their minds because they let him try it again from the half-yard line.
Got stuffed, yeah.
But again, like if you're gonna give Pacheco 2 chances from there, which you better from there when that's the score on the board, you better be going for it 4 down territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind giving him 2 chances there. His shot to finish it off there if he got you down there. I also liked what he did later in the game when he had that longer run. He had a pretty good run on one that took 9 or 10 yard gain on one run. He, like I said, 6 yard gain. It's not. He doesn't have to do it a bunch. He needs to do 3 or 4 of those things a game. Maybe
only 3 or 4.
Not even that. And not even that when Jerick McKinnon's healthy.
Maybe 1 or 2.
But when Jerick McKinnon's not healthy, which he's not right now,
maybe hand the ball at one time.
Clyde getting a couple of touches, and as long as it's productive and they use him correctly, which they did in all of those scenarios, they ran the right running plays. They didn't try to run outside zone with him to the edge.
They didn't try to throw in the ball or
didn't toss. They run a toss sweep to the edge with him.
They do sometimes kind of set him up for failure, but I mean, come on, Clyde, you got to get 1 yard.
I know he ended the game with 3 carries for 5 yards total with a 5-yard long, but it's he's doing more than, and I think the reason that the run that I was talking about didn't happen is I think they called holding on Trey or Creed, the 9-yard run later.
Oh yeah, there was a holding call on him. Yeah.
Maybe it was Juwan Taylor. I don't know. Somebody got called for a hold, and I still don't really know how that was holding, but
I think it might have been Trey.
It was Juwan. Yeah. It was Juwan Taylor because Max Crosby tried to do the.
Oh, that was the one. Yeah, I think Trey one had one later, but yeah, that was the one where he. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I don't expect him to be productive in 25 touches, but 3, 4 to spell Isaiah.
That's all you need him to do. That's all he is at this point, is a spell.
Protect the quarterback, which he's not having problems in pass blocking as much, which we've talked about. He's gotten progressively better in that category. That was one of his biggest weaknesses coming out. Look, man, he's never going to be a world beater. He's never going to be anything like he was after he got hurt.
Yeah, and this will be his last year in Chiefs uniform.
I would expect it to be. Yeah. I expect it to be. I will never go full all the way because
I mean that's not even a bad thing too. I mean he did his thing while he was here. He contributed, but we found a better option, and now we can.
Yeah. So,
but he'll be here for the rest of the year. We ain't got to worry about that. He'll continue to get some usage, but. And if Jerick McKinnon misses again this week, we'll see him again versus the Packers. Yeah. So, but also not a bad game.
That's why they have depth. Everybody that wanted him shipped off to Siberia in week 2, it's a long year, and not everybody, especially in the running back room, stays healthy. And
I wonder if we'll see a Demaric Prince elevation instead of Michael P. Ryan. So how many elevations can you have for a guy? Because I think this is P. Ryan's like second or
3 or 4.
Yeah, because I think P. Ryan's getting up there, so they might want to elevate either Prince or maybe even Keontae Ingram.
Ingram in.
Yeah. Also, they
Can you pass block and run out to the flat occasionally? Cool, do that.
Boom, do that. Another transaction that the Chiefs had. They elevated or signed from the practice squad to fill that IR spot or fill that roster spot that Nicole gave up was Echo Boydo.
Yes, congrats to the I think Jayhawk, right? K-State?
Jayhawk, yeah.
Was he K-State or KU?
I forget. I
think he was K-State. I might have just made some K-State fans mad. I'm sorry.
K-State. It's K-State.
Yeah. Sorry.
Not the fake bird.
Not Jayhawks.
Not the fake bird.
He was a UDFA, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. And we talked about him in the offseason as a potential sleeper guy to make the roster.
We love that because he played well in the preseason.
Yeah, and it's should be good to see. Good addition. He might not stay around for entirely long before.
Trying to figure out special teams, I guess.
I think special teams is the big thing that people were saying for him.
I mean, it's
That's
got to
basically all
be.
you really need.
He has to be a special teams player at this point. But that's just another DB, and they've got a lot of them. So
they've got a lot of DBs. So yeah, probably just special teams, which is I think he was doing a lot of special teams in the preseason anyways. So
well, you
good
have
to see.
to.
I know he's a good. I know he's a
If
pretty
you're a
good
fringe
athlete.
bubble
So.
guy, if you're a fringe bubble guy, you better be good at special teams.
Yeah, you better.
ain't making a
Yeah,
roster.
you sure better. Yeah. So ultimately, final thoughts on this Packers game before we get our score predictions out here and send them off into the weekend.
The weather could play a factor in things.
Yeah.
Obviously, weather's always a thing. So I don't want to run out anything and pretend like that's isn't gonna play a role in some
Even though
facet or
Patrick Mahomes
fashion.
does like snow games.
Yes, he says
But his
very much that
receivers' hands might not like snow games, so we all got to think about this.
We haven't really seen that this year. It's not been.
Maybe they'll magically catch it better when it's wet, snowy conditions.
Well, I don't know how wet it is. I think it might be actually a little stickier with leather and snow. Little extra
Is that how
grip
snow
to
works?
it. I don't know.
Tell you because I don't know.
I haven't played that much. I mean, we didn't play much in it when we were kids. So with at least football anyway.
I didn't play much in it in general. So you got me beat on that.
But I mean, it doesn't really get the ball wet because they rotate. They have like 6 or 8 of those, I think, per team, plus kicking balls and all that stuff. So they try to keep that
your
stuff
hands
pretty
wet
dry.
with a towel, or hands dry with a towel, you know.
And one of those little packet pock.
Yeah, as long as it's not like actively snowing, I suppose, or raining. It was actually raining in the Chiefs game 2 weeks ago, right, versus the Eagles.
Yeah, so let's do this. The line opened at 7, Chiefs -7. It is currently -6. The over/under opened at 41.5, I think, and it's now at 42.5. So
yeah, I could hit the over on that. I feel like I see the Chiefs winning like 42. You said?
I think 42.5 is 42.5 is the over/under. So you know,
I mean 30-14.
Yeah. They showed me. I said it last week that I wouldn't believe that they could hit 30 until they showed me, and then of course they turned around and did it. So
yeah,
I could see that being the Charger game. I don't think, and they decided to do it again. Look, man, I just think it may be a long night for the Packers defense if they're not able to do anything much on offense with all the injuries and all the stuff, and with the coordinator and with everything going on. I struggled to see this being super close. It may be closer at points, but I don't think the final ends up very close.
Yeah, I think the overall feel of the game won't be very close.
I think it's probably a 2-score game.
Yeah, they might stay in it a little while points wise, but yeah, I feel like this should be a pretty commanding.
You know what? I 31-20 because I think they have a little bit better offense than the Raiders do.
Okay, yeah,
And it could be worse than that if it could be worse offensively for them if they have more of those guys that are questionable and whatnot not play. But that's kind of where I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, I'm leaning probably in that similar direction. I'm thinking 35 to like maybe 17 again. 35-17. I think they'll definitely score a couple times. I think they'll definitely get theirs. But yeah, I think it'll probably. I almost see this as a very similar team and potential layout of the game to the Raiders game. I mean, I feel like they might come out firing a little bit early, and then once the defense gets settled in, starts getting pressure on Jordan Love, they'll start crumbling. Their defense will start crumbling behind, when the offense starts rolling a little bit more. And I think we'll look back at it and be like, "Yep, that was a pretty good game." Hopefully, we'll see another full game from the offense or from the whole team. Just showing up, playing all 60 minutes, and going home with the dub. So, yeah, I think it'll be a pretty solid game down there in Lambeau, or up there in Lambeau, I should say. Might be a lot of Chiefs fans. It's not too far of a drive up to Wisconsin, right? Midwest driving, there's nothing too far, right?
I mean, I can tell you I drove to North Dakota and back in a day, so it's not like basically up and back in a total of about 36 hours. So it's not the worst drive in the history of the world. It's pretty flat and pretty straight. I think my buddies that have done it say it's like 11 hours, probably 10 hours.
Yeah.
Now, snowing and a Sunday night game, that may be a little harder to arrange.
That's true. That is true. You make a solid
unless you got Monday off, or maybe Monday and Tuesday, or maybe Monday.
Green Bay is
way
the heck up there in Wisconsin.
It's pretty far up there.
It is pretty far up there. But yeah, we'll probably see a lot of Chiefs fans in there still. So it should be a good game. Otherwise,
it's a legendary stadium on a primetime game.
Yeah, that'd be a fun atmosphere to go to. So
Chiefs fans don't typically shy away from those environments. They tend to enjoy that. So
that's true. So that, I think, will about wrap it up for this episode.
It's about a 10-hour drive from Kansas City, because it's about 12 and a half from me. So
okay, that's not. I mean, I wouldn't like to do that personally, but
I've done far worse drives than that. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I'm not a big long road trip guy, honestly. I don't like sitting in a car for a long period of time.
I got really good at it. When you play travel hockey in the middle of the United States, in order to play teams that are competitive, you have to go a lot of places to do it. So I spent a lot of time in the car, a lot of time in a bus, lots of time.
Yeah, not my cup of tea personally. I try to limit like 2-3 hours max usually. So
I also moved 14 and a half hours from home, and then drove back and forth every month and a half for like 4 years. So
that will do it. That will do it for you. So I think that's about the end of this episode. I think we've about covered it all.
Make sure you this was supposed to be our mailbag episode and giveaway and everything. We're gonna go ahead and push that out a week because of all of the things that have happened that have kind of derailed that. So you guys get an extra week for a chance to get entered. But in order to enter, you need to go on either this podcast episode on YouTube or on the Eagles podcast episode on YouTube and drop a question. Then you can go on whichever social site you're on, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, share that contest, share that post that tells everybody about it, and you'll get your bonus entries. But in order to get the bonus entry, you got to ask a question on the YouTube for our mailbag. Otherwise, we can't give you a bonus entry if you never got the first one. So, and you want those bonus entries because, as I showed off last week, you're getting at least one of these. And I believe there is the Mahomes print also from our guy.
Yeah, the Mahomes print is also going in there. Yeah.
And they're not like, little pieces of paper. This is a real, like, it's... You hear that?
Card stock right there.
It's a real print. It's got a back to it. It's got you can frame it really easy. It's a really nice product. It's really good artwork by our friend Corey. You can also go buy those from him at his sites. Go onto his Twitter or his Facebook. I'm sure there's links to his Fine Art America page.
He's got a lot of good art out there.
Go grab,
check out.
And if you
got
want something
a sick Rasheed Rice piece.
His Rasheed Rice piece is crazy. If you want something done, you can commission him too.
Yeah, he'll draw you some. Yeah.
Yes, he will. So go check that out. Drop a mailbag question while you're there. You also need to subscribe to the YouTube channel, because we're going to be doing a lot more live stuff, and we're going to be doing a lot more Q&As, and we're going to be doing more giveaways. But you need to be subscribed to the YouTube channel to get hooked up with all that stuff. So go hop over on YouTube, subscribe, drop us a question in the mail on this episode or the last episode, so we can get you on the mailbag next week.
Yeah, do that. YouTube Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Find us on Apple Music. Find us on Spotify. Anywhere you listen to podcasts at. And watch us on YouTube, of course. Subscribe, like, rate, review, all that good stuff. And we will see you guys next week after the Packers game on another edition of The Kingdom Says.